Yeah.
All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of Sunday Snake Chat. I would shout out the people that are in the comments, but you guys ain't here yet. I see there's two of you watching, so if you're here, let me know who you are. So I can shout you out, and since nobody's here commenting yet, I gotta introduce my guest and bring him on. So we've got Mark from 403 Fauna here. So Mark, give everybody a brief
What's up, everybody?
Who you are, where you're from, how long you've been working with ball pythons, that sort of thing.
Yeah. My name is Mark Jensen. I am from San Diego, California. I got my first ball python in 2002. When I started teaching, I wanted to have a classroom pet. And I looked up an article on Reptiles magazine of like the top 10 best reptile pets you can have. It was like bearded dragon, leopard geckos, ball pythons. And so I was like, I want that. And I eventually ended up with a ball python, a box turtle, a blue tongue skink in my classroom. And it was just really fun for the kids. My science teacher had animals in his classroom, and just to give them the experience that I experienced was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean,
ever since then,
I keep on cutting you off because I want to ask a follow-up question. So, I mean, when you got into teaching, did a love for animals sort of get you into like chem and bio, like that sort of thing? Did everything sort of work together?
Definitely. Just like a lot of us reptile keepers, you'll hear us tell the story of how when we were kids, we were out there catching frogs and lizards and snakes and stuff like that. I was definitely that kid. And in particular, turtles were my first love. And I've spent like hours in the library just reading up on turtles. And I eventually wanted to get into like oceanography because Jacques Cousteau was my inspiration back then. And I took some classes in college, and it was all about the physics of the ocean. And I was like, you know what? I'm more into the animal side of things. I think I'll go into biology and focus on that. So my love for animals led me to where I am today.
That's awesome. I remember as a kid, I was super into snakes. It's a weird thing to be into. But we had a cat that was the spawn of Satan. So everything that was like a normal pet was sort of off limits after the cat. I had a hamster gerbil. I think my mom had a class guinea pig that came home for a bit. But I was like, all right, I like reptiles. And then we got a knoll, and this was back in the day, so we had no clue what we were doing. We bought it for like I think $5. We had it in like a critter keeper like this on like Astro, and of course the thing died, right? So this is back in the mid 90s. So I had this love for reptiles. I even made a little book of all these cool snakes that I found on the internet back in the day. So my parents decided, we'll get you a snake. So we found a local breeder in Allentown back in the day. Like this was pretty hard to do. So somehow my parents found a breeder, and I got an albino corn snake. And that thing lived until I was a sophomore in college. So I mean, I think that's just insane. I had this like one pet, and of course, over the years it turned into like bearded dragons, Russian tortoises, and like Pokemon. You gotta have them all, and then you scale back. But yeah, so you mentioned your love for reptiles started primarily with turtles. Were these aquatic or those terrestrial ones like box turtles, things like that?
I love them all. I would pray at bed at night, can you deliver me a turtle, God? And eventually when I got into high school, me and a buddy, we joined the San Diego Turtle and Tortoise Society. And we eventually ended up having these kiddie pools in our backyard with just a variety of species of turtles. And we dabbled in the anoles as well and the garter snakes and stuff like that. So my hands were kind of in everything. And going back to the ball pythons, back then when I started in 2002, it was just fauna classifieds and king snake. There was no morph market, and I was kind of scared to order something in the mail. So back then, I just scanned the king snake for any local breeders, and then I'd contact them, and then we'd meet up at a 7-Eleven or something and get a snake. But yeah, there hasn't been a point in my life where I haven't had some sort of animal in it, whether it's an aquarium or a snake. For the past 20 years, I've had a ball python, at least one in my life.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. Since I got that corn snake, I had a bunch of reptiles and other things in high school. Then of course I went off to college. So for 1 year I didn't have a lot of stuff. I had one ball python, I think, and some leopard geckos that my parents managed to keep alive, which is kind of weird. And then I traded the leopard geckos because the ball python died for another ball python, and then that one came with me to school, and I had her up until like 2018, like right before I started on social media. So right before the pandemic, went up to a buddy's house. We were going to breed her to a banana mocha. Unfortunately, she passed. And that was like what I was going to slide into this with. That and a couple of bearded dragon things. Yeah, I mean, I've had reptiles forever. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't have them. My dog takes so much freaking effort. I got to feed her, let her outside. She got to sleep in the bed with me sometimes. She bugs me. Snake?
Non-allergenic. Yeah, they're awesome.
Right. So, I mean, it for me, reptiles are, now I've entirely too many. For my liking right now, I'd like to get out of some of the lizard species I have to focus on ball pythons. But they are relatively low maintenance for the most part. At least snakes are. Once or twice a week. If you have a large collection, you feed them, handle them, clean the water, substrate, whatever. But it's not a daily thing. Lizards are a little more intensive, but I mean, I just like all my friends are cold-blooded, that type of thing.
I bred bearded dragons at one point, so I've dabbled in lizards. Blue tongue skinks are awesome. I kind of want to get back into them.
I have a pet one over there, so
they've got some really cool morphs. The all black ones. I want one of those, but probably someday.
Shout out to Victor from Far Out Exotics, because he's got, I think, an all white blue tongue skink and an all black one, and he's working with that.
I want.
So I mean that's cool, but I mean bearded dragons, like 40 babies, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, just feeding them, all the crickets you have to buy, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean I'm barely, I have 10 lizards right now, and I have a colony of dubia roaches, and that's keeping me, having them fed. Plus, for the ones that are, eat vegetables as well and plant matter, they get all my scraps. So, sort of, it's nice. I make a salad. Everybody's getting fed. I don't really throw that much out. So, I mean, that's nice. So I mean, we discussed the next question. You work with ball pythons. You work with other species. But as far as breeding goes, are you interested in anything other than just ball pythons at this point?
I do have some dart frogs right now. I've got 4, and I'm not going to actively pursue trying to breed them, but
if they do, they do.
Yeah, if they do, they do. And just recently, my male started chirping, and when I first heard that, I'm like, is the aquarium pump squeaky, or what is that noise? And so it's really cool hearing them chirp. It's like I got a tropical rainforest in my house, but those are really cool.
I had a colony, right, a 1.1 of Santa Isabel dart frogs, and some an assorted paludarium of arroyo frogs, and those were all males. So at a certain point, you could just hear them chirping. I'm like, I didn't need an alarm clock. And you got the sun was coming up, they were chirping. So shout out to some people in the chat. Melanie and Ash, welcome. Ken from LMK Reptiles, welcome. You got Get These Balls, welcome. I think we got 2 of your students, Mark, Melanie, and Ash.
Melanie, yeah. And thanks for joining us.
Last but not least, we got Ray and Michaela joining us. So, okay, so I missed that part in the beginning because nobody was here, but we're all good now. So, this is primarily focused, on ball pythons and stuff in your classroom. So, for any first-time ball python breeders, do you have any advice that you want to give them?
I mean, the classic answer for that is to work with what you love, and of course, do that. But I would say do as much research as you can before diving into it. Get a handle on genetics. Get a handle on all the different morphs. This is my second go through, and I wanted during the pandemic. I'm a pandemic baby, but first thing I did was just went on YouTube and watched all the videos. I know Chris Hardwick gets a lot of crap, but I watched a ton of his videos just to get caught up on all the different morphs that were out there since I got out. Mutation Creation had a lot of good stuff. There's a ton of really good videos out there. Do your research online. There's a lot of free material. So research, number one, and then figure out, through the research, you're going to figure out what you love, and then you could go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same thing. Like, I've been into reptiles forever, breeding only really recently, right? So, like I said, when I went to college, I got rid of a lot of things except for, like, some leopard geckos and a ball python. And back then, this was late 2000s. There wasn't much. So it was like pieballs and like these recessives and, a couple codons were like still stupid expensive for the most part. And then when I came back and I found out this thing called Morph Market exists, and I'm looking at all these different things that have come about in the meantime, it's like, man, I probably should have done this 10 years ago. But, here we are. I decided to get back into it during the pandemic and ramp everything up. So, I went from tiny 3-tub sea serpents rack to, I think I have 23 snakes, including hatchlings. So, I mean, it's going to ramp up again next year and the following. So, I mean,
yeah, Morph Market has been a massive game changer. And I just recently downloaded the app, so now I get notifications. Someone has a question, and just this past week, I sold 3 snakes. So it's been an amazing experience, and they just keep expanding on that.
Cool.
So
yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of things linking together. So I know Kabelka and I forget who else has Clutch coming out. We have Husband, a bunch of other things to track everything electronically. So I think we're going to integrate all of these things. So when I sell you an animal and like through Morph Market, you're going to get the entire history of whatever I did with that thing. And I think that's great. There's no more like, oh yeah, it was all food for like a whole year and I didn't tell you about it, or it's never bred for me, that sort of thing. So, I mean, I think technology can play a big part in how we move forward. Obviously, social media has been huge, introducing people in Pennsylvania to people out there in San Diego. I mean, I would not know who you are if social media wasn't here. I wouldn't know some of the breeders next door without social media.
Yeah, it's just this week someone contacted me on Instagram. He's like, hey, I live in this certain area, and let's hang out sometime and chat snakes. And if you don't know me, Gershon is the introvert. I'm I blow him out of the water as far as introvert. So just to meet up with someone, chat snakes, I've got to come out of my comfort zone to do that. But
I mean, I'm pretty introverted too, I feel, but I can talk your ear off about reptiles. Like if I didn't have to go to bed or anything, we could be on here forever. I probably wouldn't run out of things to talk about. But yeah, I feel like when I'm passionate about something, that introvertedness, me wanting to stand in a corner and ignore the party, that goes away. I mean, I'll talk somebody's ear off about reptiles, and even if they don't care or whatever, that's what I'm into. So we got Chad from Richie's Recessive, and we got a comment from Ash. So let's get into, you want to get into the meat of this? Because it's all about pythons. We haven't shown off any snakes.
Let's do it.
All right. So I'll bring up your other camera on the side, make it small with me. All right.
Let's see, who should we start with?
I mean, do you want to go less fire to more fire?
Let's start with the giveaway snake. Let's do that.
Okay, we can do that.
So if you guys didn't know, I am giving away a snake on my YouTube. The video is going to go live at 6:00 p.m. tonight, so a couple hours. And I thought I'd give those that are in the audience here a head start and a chance to earn 2 spots as opposed to 1. But basically, there's a catchphrase, and I stole this from Gray's Reptiles, that you're gonna have to put in the comments. And if you put craft brew along with the catchphrase, I'll give you 2 spots for that. And the catchphrase is "Life is a highway," because I am giving away a pastel highway ball python. So if in the comments you put craft brew, "Life is a highway," or some variation of that, you'll be eligible for 2 spots as opposed to 1.
Nice,
So
nice.
let me go ahead and put this girl in the.
That's pretty cool.
So for 1,000 subs, I'll be giving away this pastel highway, and I think I'm like 150 away from that. And just looking at my analytics, I gained 100 subscribers this past month, which has just been amazing. And
that's awesome.
Hopefully, I thought I would have till like next spring to get to 1,000, but it might be like in a month that I get to 1,000, especially with this giveaway. And so pastel highway, she is gorgeous. It's a girl. I wanted to do a giveaway that was special and was an animal that, you know, a lot of people would love. So this girl will be given away at 1,000 subs. Remember the catchphrase, "Life is a highway," in the comments on my latest video, and put craft brew in there for an extra spot.
Okay, I think I got all of that, and I dropped it in the live chat. So
you're eligible too, Ken. So.
Oh, I got the dirt on it, so I'm definitely when that video drops, I'm gonna comment craft brew, and you know, life is a highway, and then I'm probably gonna put a reel to it that some part about here on Instagram with life is a highway. So
just going back to when I got back in, I had kept 2 ball pythons from my previous collection, ivory and a black pastel calico, which I produced. And getting back into it, when I was doing my research, what should I add to the collection so that I could breed and would be an easy sale? So I looked up highways. I found highways and freeways. At that time, when you're starting your collection again, you're kind of hesitant to spend a little money. So the highways were cheaper than the freeways. So I went the highway route. I actually got it from, and this might be a bad word, but I got it from Bob Clark, and it's been a fantastic animal since I've gotten it. And he bred for me the past year with the ivory, and I produced ivories, I produced highways, I produced pastel highways. One of them came out super crazy, and a lot of people think it might be a super gravel, but I'm not too sure about that. But that one's for giveaway. And
that's
yeah, just check out the video. It's live in a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, I joke with everybody because my channel's slowly going along, but I only do this once a week, and I only have 1 video a week, and it's pretty much the same 20 snakes that I've had for a year. So I mean, I regurgitate content. But I said, if y'all get me to 1,000 subs, you get me monetized on YouTube, I will give away something visual from double visual from my Ultra Ball Pied project.
Nice.
Now, chances are I will have that by the time I am monetized. So, it's sort of one of those things, it's clickbaity, but, I'm confident that, I will have one by that time. And that still stands. I mean, if you get me monetized today, and shout out to Brian, the CEO, and Samson Snakeatorium shirt on. Nice.
Ken, I got a question for you.
Yes.
You've had some really awesome guests on this live. What inspired you to do the live? Is it mainly because you know it'll get you quicker to those monetization, or was it something else?
So when I started this, I wanted to do like, at least for the videos, I wanted to have like, here's where I started. You're gonna follow me through this process of me, breeding snakes, the highs, lows, that sort of thing. Did I buy something new? What did I produce? That sort of thing. And then, I linked up with Keys and a couple other people, Gershon, and a couple other people that are doing, these types of things. And I'm like, one, it helps me, get my name out there. Two, it allows me to pick somebody's brain that I might not deal with on a regular basis. And lastly, it does, bring some views in. So that's not my primary goal of having the guests on. Sometimes I get somebody that's a legend like Brian Gundy. That was amazing. I've had Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles. But mainly it's people that I know and people that I feel for the most part are in my tier of the ball python breeding, right? So either mostly they've been ahead of me, but at some point I would love to bring on people that are behind me as I get further along. I only have 1 year of breeding in my I've only produced one collection, so to be able to next year after I have a few more in my belt, to bring on somebody that's was in my position at this time, or not even there, to sort of see what their thoughts are, and then at that point, get their name out there as well.
Yeah, at some point I'd like to do some lives, not necessarily podcasts or anything like that, but just doing things in the snake room like how Granddaddy Herps does and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But,
I do like what he does, because he's just like, hey, I'm here. Ask me anything you want. You want to see something, that sort of thing. I mean, I like that concept, but he's on really late for me, so I have to stay up late to watch him.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm on the West Coast, so it's all good. But I'm not quite at that level yet. So someday.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's branding, right? So if I have 6 now, recessive or possible recessive projects that I can work on. So me, that nobody's heard of, produces these crazy snakes in the future, and I have no presence. How do it just gives the buyer some confidence that, like, oh yeah, here's a clutch cutting video from this animal. There you go.
There was a question I wanted to answer. Ash said, hey, you should do a TikTok. You get a lot of subs. And I actually do have a TikTok, and I have a lot of subscribers on there. I've got one video that's like at 800,000 views. So check out 403 Fauna on TikTok. And I think a lot of my subs on YouTube came from there. Who knows?
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and find that link to that, and I'll drop it in the description along with all the other links that Mark has for social media. I asked if he had everything. He said yes. So we'll add the TikTok there later. All right. Catch up with the comments. It's mostly Jeremy talking to Chad.
Jeremy.
Oh, all right. We got another PA guy, Rob. What's good? Gettysburg was a good show. And what are your students?
Melanie, you're in New York right now? I guess you're not going to be in class tomorrow?
I don't know. I just assumed that anybody new was a student. So, all right. So, what's your favorite stuff that you're working with right now? Incomplete dominant wise.
I actually brought some here to share with you, but I'm really in love with the calico gene right now.
Okay.
Just like I mentioned, the black pastel calico was one of the genes that I saved for my first go through. And after breeding her, she put out some amazing snakes. And let me share some of those with you right now. Okay, so right here we have a Mojave Calico. It's also het Cryptic or Clown, and 50% possible het Ultramel, Team Ultramel to you, Kent.
Woohoo!
Let's see, you want.
Melanie, I apologize. I assume everybody that was new here, was one of his students, but you're good.
Awesome, thank you. But we can see how
Sure,
the
Mark
Mojave,
appreciates it.
the Calico with the Mojave, it just destroyed the alien eyes, and there's a lot of white coming up from the bottom.
Ooh.
And the colors
Ooh, I like that.
have slightly changed. So I think Calico is a little bit underrated. It's one of those genes that's been around forever, and probably because it doesn't do well with Clown, it just reduces the pattern on Clown. I know with these incomplete dominants, it's all about how well does it do with Clown. But as we'll see with another snake here, it does more than just add white. So again, this is Mojave Calico, het Cryptic or Clown, 50% possible het Ultramel. Now I'm going to show you one. I'll show you a black pastel calico that I just hatched right now too.
I mean, I may have a calico. I don't know. Hard to tell. In normals when it's low expression.
We're going to do some gene stacking right now. So next up, we have a black pastel calico. I'm not sure how the orange is going to come out. There we go.
Oh, yeah, you can see it on my end.
But that tail is just crazy. Let me see. Look at that tail right there. So black pastel calico. There's not much white in the black pastel, but it does put a lot of orange. And the belly is almost yellow belly-like. And calicos throw ringers too. A little bit of ringer right there. So we have a Mojave calico, we have a black pastel calico. They're all het Cryptic or Clown, and 50% possible het Ultramel. This girl just shed, and I'll be sending the shed into Rare Genetics Inc. to get that tested for Ultramel. Hopefully she does test positive for that. But yeah, this one's really cool. Came out way better than the mom, and hopefully that's the Ultramel influence. Ultramel influence. Okay, let's stack one more gene. Let's put them together. All three. Mojave, Calico, Black Pastel.
All right.
So this snake kind of went a little bit viral because they call it the Padre snake. So here we got Mojave, Black Pastel, Calico. And look at just what it does to the pattern and the color.
Wow.
Just three simple genes, probably some of the most common genes out there. And it makes this incredibly crazy snake. Also, of course, het Cryptic or Clown and 50% possible het Ultramel. Mojave, Black Pastel, Calico. One of my favorite snakes I produced this year.
I mean, that's really cool. Like the pattern is just insane. Like the interaction between all three. It's got this broken up dorsal. Alien heads are. They look like the little arm flexing emojis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really cool. And then there's nothing on a headstand. That's cool, man. Make me want to get some calico in here.
So you know what? There was a recent podcast I listened to. I think it was Outside the Clutch, John Feely's.
Okay.
And it was Philippek. I apologize for forgetting the name and his company, but he was talking about how with ball python breeding now, it's getting to the point where how it used to be. Back then, it was you stack as many codoms together, and then you end up with just this snake that doesn't look like nothing. And we're getting to that point now where you stack a ton of codoms into these multiple recessives, and some of these snakes, they don't look great. And I think starting to focus and make things better, like the calico, Calico is not just white; it's incredibly orange. It's a pattern disruptor, and if you could figure out new ways to focus on its positive traits, you just make it better and better. And maybe
Right,
Calico's
right. And I think you want to avoid other, you know, you want to avoid combos where something's going to do the same thing, right? So it's going to blush out the belly, pixelate up the sides, things like spider yellow belly, some of the blue-eyed leucistic complexes, they do that. So it might get lost in there, and you might have no clue. You could have hit it, but you won't know until you breed it, and it pops out a single gene calico or something where it's more noticeable. I think we get to that point. We were talking about it with Blade and Clown. So where a lot of these Clown combos, come with Blade, or can come with Blade, and we might not be identifying it as breeders because we never knew it was there. It just sort of carried through. And that was something we talked about that in a group chat earlier today. But yeah, I feel like when we stack all these things to the point where we can't identify them, well, we're going to have a need for normal breeders, right? A normal female,
Yep.
Blank canvas, throw that stacked male with 5, 6, possibly when you have a 4 codon plus, because you don't know, because you can't identify it, but it could have been there, and then you have that normal to sort of prove out what's in that male.
And it goes back to my tip I had on doing your research. And Morph Market has been a huge part of my research, as I'm sure yours as well. You just type in what combos you want to see and what they look like. And I noticed with the Calico, there isn't very much on there. So, that's something for me to take advantage of, because it's not worked with as much. So
Right.
do your research, yeah.
So one of the things I've noticed is like, okay, I have this plan in my head for where to take Ultramel and some other genes, some other things that I have. So I put them all together, and I click search, and there is nothing. But I know for a fact that with some of those things, people are working with them. They just don't make it to get sold, in a normal market. They're in Patreon groups of breeder to breeder, that sort of thing. So, there's going to be a point where I'm going to have to call upon, the Patreons that I'm in, the friends that I have, be like, hey, I hatched this out. Here's the parent. Somebody's got to help me out because I haven't seen one of these before. There's no, unless somebody produced it and it was on Instagram, or, somebody was selling one on Morph Market. If there's no picture of it, I don't have anything to go by. So for me, like when I produced that champagne hat hide, I had done research and found out that champagne can throw that cool looking snake that looks like a pie. So I had to learn a lot about champagne this past year.
Right. Speaking of Patreon, what Patreons are you a part of, and would you recommend?
So initially, when I got into it, I was part of Billy's and Mutation Creations. I felt there were a lot of people involved there, and the tier I was involved wasn't. It was first time breeder, so it wasn't that much, but I didn't see the benefit there. So I decided that I would go support Antoine at High Desert Python. So right now I'm a VIP member. So I get, every so often I get a giveaway, stickers, coffee mug, that sort of thing. And I also am part of Aussie Boys Patreon. So right now it's just 2. I think I'm going to stay with those for now. I might upgrade my tier for Aussie, when I can actually take some of that financial advice to heart that he offers at that higher tier.
Yeah.
Because I'm renting an apartment. It's not like I'm going to go invest in real estate, or I can go gamble in the stock market aside from what I'm doing with my employer. But I do recommend Patreon for when you can see a payoff from it, whether it's networking, whether it's access to somebody that you might not talk to, right? So for instance, Will Morose has a Patreon. You might not actually interact with him unless you're in his Patreon. I've been interacted with people that normally probably wouldn't follow me if I wasn't involved in some of these Patreons. So I feel like it helps. Ozzy's gonna make it one tier soon. I can invest for an apartment, and I have no kids. Okay, Nicole, I do have like I don't know 50 some reptile kids. So, but
I tell you what, after watching some of Ozzy's videos, and he recommended the Rich Dad Poor Dad, I read that, and yeah, that's probably something I'll look into. Currently, I'm a part of Will's Patreon, and I gotta say that it's really really cool. He has a Zoom call every week or an interview with someone, and his chat is really lively, and you could chat with like some of the biggest breeders in the industry on there. I was a part of Justin's before, the $25 tier, and I found that not to be too beneficial to me. You got to pay for the bigger tiers to get more of a benefit out of his Patreon, I think. And I was also a part of Miguel's. Miguel, he started off with a bang. He put out a ton of videos, and then since starting the Morph Market in Mexico, he's just got super busy, and the Patreon for him is basically just a bank credit for his snakes. So I dropped that. But I'm part of Will's, and I considered High Deserts because I know that he's really supportive of his patrons, and I considered Mutation Creation, but who knows? Maybe I'll add another one.
I mean, and for me, part of it is now I do have a great group of PA and local PA breeders. The group chat. I have the usual suspects, Keys Constrictors, Nicole, FNA. There's a whole group of us that have a group chat as well. But I don't really. I have a handful of people that I can drive to, for advice, see things. So I mean, I feel like for me having access, whether it's not, it's not physical, but it's virtual, that helps me out a lot since I don't have a mentor here. I sort of just had animals, fell into social media with YouTube, Instagram, following people. So I ask a lot of people probably too much for advice. With being in 3 chats, Nicole I know gets annoyed with me that I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Well, it's like, well, who's going to answer me this time? And Nicole says everyone shouldn't even have a Patreon. And I think that's true.
Yeah.
There's a certain size, if you can't offer anything really to your end user, I get the higher tiers get more. But if you can't offer, like, say if I'm in JKR's lowest tier, if I message him on Instagram, I'm paying him, right? And say I bought a snake from him. I kind of expect a response. Not if I'm spamming him, but hey, I have this question. Can you get back to me? I kind of expect a response there, and I get that with the people I'm involved in their Patreons. I may get jumped ahead of somebody else if I have a question. So, I mean, I like doing it, supporting people because it gets me in there. And for Antoine, I actually want a snake as part of his VIP tier.
One thing that kind of sucks about Patreon is that a lot of these people that do have their Patreon, they've kind of abandoned YouTube for it. So we don't get all the content that we used to get because it's all for their patrons. But hey,
yeah, I've seen that where there's you get. I'm fine with the sneak peek. Like, hey, here's this video I filmed yesterday. I'm going to share it to the world in 2 months, but here it is early for like a clutch or something like that. I get that. It gives you guys the opportunity to say, hey, yeah, I want that, or I'm interested before the rest of the world. I get it, on those certain things, but yeah. Nicole agrees with you on that.
With getting back to YouTube, when I first got in 2020, there's a ton of YouTubers, and I really looked up to those guys, and then they've disappeared, or maybe they put out a video once a year, and I think it's up to us guys like me and you to pick up that slack and put out content. So this year I made a promise to myself that I'm gonna put out a video every week.
Nice.
And, well, I pretty much have followed that. And I think success on YouTube is all about just consistency. And someone like me can almost be at 1,000 subscribers is just mind blowing. And it's just a matter of putting that content out. And within the past couple of months, I've seen my video numbers just go crazy. Before, I'd be happy if I get 100 views, and now I get 100 views a day, which is nuts.
Yeah, and that's incredible. See, what I like about this, and like we'll call it the under 100 clutches a year breeders. The ones that we're maybe vending shows, we're maybe not. We're relatively small, but it gives me the sense that I can relate to you, right? You may have more than me, you may have less than me, but you're not, Justin Kabilki. You're not, you're not so far ahead of me at this point where it's like, whatever advice I'm getting from you, yeah, that's great, but I can't implement it now. Yeah, I agree. I should have an acid clown with 5 other codoms in there to go to all my stuff. I can't afford that, but I can afford maybe an acid clown. But for me, it's that level of advice, that level of, I have a problem right now. You had that. You just dealt with that, and that relatability, where I can also see myself. If we go to a show, if I go to a show out in California, I can meet up with you and grab a bite to eat or a drink or something like that. With some of these bigger names, I don't see myself, interacting with them much more than on social media. So I like that and I appreciate that.
Speaking of shows, it's funny how these topics go. I hear a word from you, then I want to talk about that topic. But there's a show in Pomona coming up in January. I plan to be there. So if anybody's on the West Coast and want to meet up over there, let's do that. I got to get out of my comfort zone and meet some people. So Pomona next month.
And so I did my first show attending in years, pre-pandemic. The first one that I was Kent from Craft Brew. It was Oaks, September maybe, outside of Philadelphia. So I got to meet a bunch of people, and that was nice. And Rob M came up behind me, scared the crap out of me. I guess Chris from BNS Reptilian, told him, "Oh, hey, Ken's over there. Go say hi." And if you haven't, met Rob is a big dude. So I got tapped on the shoulder and kind of got scared, and then I realized it was Rob, but it was still funny. But yeah, I think, I can't go to that many shows, across the country, but I can go to the local ones when I can, and I think that helps. But I do also think having a presence here weekly with, my interviews on a Sunday and, a video every Tuesday of, what's going on, I think that certainly helped. Okay, so back to Rob says, now I won't go anyone at a show. At least you got my name first. All right, so you said you were working with Calico, at your favorite codom, Incomplete Dominant Gene right now. Is there anything you want to add, to these codom projects in the future? Maybe something like acid or confusion, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I actually do have a static girl.
Okay.
And static, pretty much the same as acid and confusion. They just don't get that much play. Now, I heard on Will's Patreon that he was having trouble feeding his confusion, and I was like, you know what, my static is just like that. And so the discussion was brought up, and other people chimed in of how poor of a feeder that they have. It's not with everybody, of course, but my static is not the best either. But
yeah, I've heard that with that complex or static acid and confusion. I've heard that they're trouble eaters.
I've made a switch to mice, and I wanted to talk with you about inflation and how that's affecting you and your collection. But for me, I decided to move to mice because you can get jumbo mice for $1, as opposed to a weaned or a small rat, which is $3. So I decided to get some mice, and I started feeding my collection with mice. And man, my static eater, she goes nuts for those, and she's for the past 10 meals, she's only missed one of those.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I see. Everybody talks about inflation when it comes to feeders. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen a pinch, during COVID, I breed my own dubia roaches. I started that. Or I had dubias prior to COVID, and then I added more. I lucked out like in that perfect timing of when somebody had them. I got a bunch of breeders and reestablished the colony, and I breed my own rodents, Norwegian rats. So like I don't see market pressures on those things right now unless it's involved with rodent feed itself or bedding. So the bedding went up like $1. The feed, it's negligible. It cost me about $100 a month to feed them, and I think I'm producing them at 25 cents my cost. So I don't really see, inflation on the actual feeders themselves.
That's good. I just want to send a shout out to Hold Back Rack podcast. No offense to any other podcasters and you yourself, Kent, but they are my favorite podcast and they are just awesome. Be sure you watch their videos.
Definitely. And anybody in the chat that's new, make sure to go subscribe to both of us. Mark's got some awesome content on his channel. YouTube did me dirty and unsubscribed me from his channel because I haven't watched some things in a while. It's kind of annoying because I went to search, for his YouTube link and it says unsubscribe. I'm like, I know I subscribed.
So
make sure you if you subscribe to somebody, go watch, go comment. It probably was because I didn't like or comment anything. I just watched the video. And I tend to do that. I have playlists set up, while I'm working in my reptile room or with the rodents, and I just have you guys going.
You know what? Let me grab the static girl. Let's take a look at her, see if she'll bite me. Again, statics they're just crazy. I've heard Justin say his confusion are just absolutely nuts. My girl is nuts and eats rarely, but now better with mice. But let me go pull her up.
Okay. All right, we can do that. Yep. Chats are going all over the place asking Jeremy how he did in his show.
Okay, let's see this crazy girl here. Yeah, look at just how nuts this girl is. But wow. Pastel and static acid confusion, they just go super well together. It's one of those complementary genes that I like to call synergy. And she's going crazy.
Okay, ball python synergy. There we go.
So yeah, that's probably all we'll see of her because she is nuts. But man, you know what? This is my first time pulling her out in a while because she's so crazy and looks like she's moving. Well, she's getting pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, I do like pastel in that. People hate on pastel. I don't.
Yeah. DG, of course, works with all that. Static acid confusion, super cool with it.
Hypo. Anything that's bright, I think works well with it.
I'm just gonna grab some hand sanitizer real quick before I touch the babies again.
That's fine. That is fine. I always do that. I'll put myself over here. So I always have this on top of my hatchling rack. Just so if there is something going on, I can at least sanitize before I touch another animal. Or, there was duty or, something else in there. I don't have to get that out of my hands. Yeah, I'm super excited to have Mark on here. By the way, if you missed it earlier, he's dropping a video for his 1,000 subscriber giveaway at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. I think I got that right. 6 p.m. Pacific. So if you comment Life is a Highway and Craft Brew on there, you'll get 2 entries.
So just a shout out to Hold Back Rack podcast. They really brought to the forefront the spread of disease, and I blame them for my crazy dry hands and fingers because after touching every animal, I'm washing and sanitizing.
Yep, and you also find every paper cut you have.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at a couple more snakes.
All right. So are we still doing that mainly codom stuff, or are we getting into recessive?
Let's get into the recessives now.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I recently got into monsoon. I don't have a monsoon. That's just too crazy. But I wanted to share with you guys the influence it has on the pattern. So first we'll look at a regular Mojave, and then I'll share with you a Mojave het monsoon.
All right. All right. Okay, switch you over. Get up top.
So I think most breeders are familiar with Mojave, but I may have some students in the audience. But
Ooh.
this is a Mojave, but she is also het cryptic and clown, 50% possible het ultramel. So I think that's having an influence. But Mojaves have that characteristic alien head patterns. Usually it's just a single one like this. This one has a beautiful dorsal stripe with it. So other than the possible het clown or het ultramel influence, this is just a Mojave. And she's a beautiful example of the morph.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, that looks awesome, man. At least like how it's showing up for me. The yellows are really, really bumping.
And this one's, let me plug my morph market. This one's available on morph market. So if you want to add that to your rack, hit me up. Now let me go get the Mojave het monsoon. Now again, just look at the pattern. Notice the single alien eyes.
You said that was 100% clown or cryptic?
Yes.
Haas Ultramouth?
Yep.
Boy or girl?
This is a female.
Ooh.
She's priced to go too, so check it out. I actually have two of those. Honestly, that's the better looking one. I don't know if the ultramel influence is there. Let me grab. Okay, so let's go back here. Here's the Mojave het monsoon. So I got this from Dave Green Reptiles, and he is the originator of the morph. So without a doubt, 100% het monsoon. And we can see what it did to the alien heads here. It's like really crazy, wacky patterns all over the place. So monsoon definitely influences the pattern of the animal. Now, there's a question of whether monsoons are really viable because there's not that many out there. There should be much, much more monsoons out there. And I know with Mutation Creation, they had a video showing an egg cutting, and one of them was actually dead in the egg. So that just brought in my mind whether monsoons are a viable morph. And I think Hold Back Rack podcast brought that up as well. So I figure I'll find out on my own with this. But yeah, you can see how it influences the pattern. The donut holes are another characteristic here. Floating alien heads. And just the overall wackiness. I think Justin brought up the low eye stripes as well.
Right, I've heard this from Austin up there. He thinks, this is just his opinion, that it's an incomplete dominant, and like that monsoon that we see is the super form.
Yep.
Just because the het influence that it has. But again, it's probably one of the newest recessives out there, and we haven't really done much with it as a community.
Did you catch Jaffe's video today?
I did not. I have to go back and watch that.
He shared a new monsoon just hatched by Mutation Creation. I think it was yellow belly, pastel, leopard, monsoon, and pretty crazy. So
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like if I could like just a hat cheap and just gamble. Right now for me, same with Sunset. Just to get some hats. And hopefully,
this is the most expensive snake in my collection. It's just crazy what I paid for this one, but sometimes you just got to take that leap and get in on it. Let me share with you a 50% possible het monster. Let me put this guy away. Sanitize real quick. Okay, so this one right here is a banana pinstripe het black axanthic, 50% possible het monsoon. I got her from Anna Kirby at AK Morse.
Wow.
So the reason I chose this one is because the pattern is just pretty crazy, especially with the dorsal here. You can see how like it just creeps up and crosses over. So I'm thinking that's monsoon influence that's going on here. So hopefully 50%, like look at that pattern just go up like that and go on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like what pinstripe does, and that's
A little
almost
harder
like
to see with the
pants.
pattern in there.
So the other jeans sort of bring out that patterning from the pinstripe.
Yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed. This is one that's on mice, frozen thawed mice. I tried frozen thawed rats, but she wasn't having it. But she's slamming the frozen thawed mice and doing really well. I've got a pied girl that just wants to eat frozen thawed mice. She won't eat anything else. So I've got to feed her like I've been feeding her 2 a week leading up to the breeding season because I want to get that Mojave het monsoon to her.
Okay. And so, like, what I do as far as feeding goes, at least for adults, I'm feeding my male breeders every other week, like a small, and I'm feeding right now as we ramp up towards the breeding season. I'm feeding my females, 2 smalls. They're easier to produce for me, right? So it's easier to produce smalls and weans than it is to grow up mediums. So
I feed pretty small size to weans or smalls to all my adults. And leading up to the season, the females get once or twice a week, and the males are getting once a week right now, the jumbo mice, which are smaller than a small rat.
Right. Yeah, I have my male that sired the clutch. He's already like, all right, I'm angry. I want to breed. I'm done eating. He'll be done until like March.
It's funny because my ivory male that I had, he was in the classroom for over 10 years and he was the sweetest snake. And then when I started breeding him, he wasn't aggressive, but I don't know if you've noticed the males will do that bump thing. They'll bump you like that little bit of breeding aggression. And he did it so much that he actually opened his own tub. He was just bumping like crazy. But
yeah, I had him in the lowest rack, on the bottom with all the females, because I was moving stuff around, and he was so like aggressive. Wasn't eating, but aggressive. So I'm like, okay, you're going back with the males and the grow outs and away from there. I think he calmed down a bit, but it's just funny that he's I paired other things and I hadn't paired him yet because he's my backup. And just like something's wrong this year.
What's your most exciting pairing for this year?
So for this year, it's going to be, if it goes, my Ultramel pinstripe to my pied. So making double heads. And I actually have a video coming out on Tuesday talking about all of this. But I don't mind talking about it now because I've been talking about it for, a year now in anticipation of what's coming up. Ultramel, everything. Unfortunately, he's not locking with anything. So it might be, a misnomer.
Yeah, I'm counting on these young males to go for me this year. I've got a shot at Desert Ghost Clowns this year, so we'll see if both the male and the female will go through with it. But I've got.
So let's go to your. What are you currently working with recessive project wise?
So I want to put that monsoon to a pied girl and an empty clown, and just make those double hets with it. Possible double hets. I have a good shot at hypopides this year, and the female is a pastel Huffman double het hypopide. So I've seen on Morph Market the Huffman pides, and they're pretty incredible. So I'm excited for that. The male is a pinstripe Enchi pied het hypo. So I think that's a 1 in 8 chance I'll have at hypopides. Of course, the DG clown. Hopefully they'll go. What else do I? I have a pastel banana VPI xanthic genetic stripe. I'm hoping I can make triple hets with.
Ooh,
So
okay.
actually, let me pull them out right now. Let's see. It's feeding day for them, so I gotta be a little bit cautious with them.
Yeah, I run into that on Sundays too. For me, I'm fine because I'm usually not showing off snakes because I'm letting everybody else do it. But I have to go do that when we're done here. Ooh,
So
okay.
here, pastel banana VPI xanthic genetic stripe. So just that combo is just this unique coloration. It's like the dorsal is white and the sides are like a buttery yellow. I know xanthic is supposed to reduce that yellow, but there is a little
It's
bit of yellow.
somehow showing up.
Yeah.
So what are you looking to work that into? DG.
Clown. So
Clown.
I'll make some triple hets. The VPI xanthic genetic stripe clown. T-stripe clowns are pretty hot, so we'll definitely go that route. But I think this guy's ready. He's thick. He's been slamming those frozen thawed mice. I'm just waiting on some girls to put on a little bit more weight. My season's going a little bit late this year. Most of my breeding will start in January.
Okay.
My females from last year, I've slowly started to incorporate them back into the breeding, but they laid pretty late in this year too, so it'll be about January before they get going.
Okay, so for the ones that have gone later, are you waiting? Like, you would wait to start pairing later, let them, build back up.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the rule of thumb is what, like 5 to 6 months before you breed them again. But I'm seeing some of these girls at 4 months, they're starting to bull wrap and hang out on the cool side, so they might be ready. I fed them pretty heavy after laying, so who knows? Maybe I'll try it on the next rain we get here.
Yeah, my girl that laid last year, she laid in, it's like June, no, July, rather. But she was smashing food right away. She went up to my buddies at 1,600 grams. She was 900 when she was empty after she laid. And he told me today, oh yeah, she smashed a medium rat. Like, okay. So she's probably gonna get paired to she's a het pied girl, so she's getting paired to a firefly pied now, but it's the first time. So hopefully, we get het pieds.
Do you have an ultrasound?
I do not.
Yeah, I don't either. Is that
So
something you
I
plan on getting?
not right now. Now my first clutch was an experience because I bought the normal as a male. It wound up being normal het for pied. It was doing, man, it's bowl wrapping. It's pretty big for its age. And I wasn't feeding it right. I was feeding it like a male. But it was always taking that extra rat. Every so often. So every other week it was taking 2 rats. Well, it's doing all these things, and I message Jeremy Turgeon. I'm like, do you think this is a girl? He goes, I don't know. Throw the male in there and see what happens. I'm like, okay. So I threw the champagne pastel in there. That's the only one that I had that was a breeding size. And lo and behold, they're locking. So that's how I got my first clutch because, I was planning on everything being like this year. So it's just a cool, happy accident. Best $20 I ever spent.
Nice. How many of the babies are you holding back?
I am going to hold back at this point just one. I'll put myself on over here. So make sure I got the right one. So I'm holding back this champagne girl, and she does have this cool little ringer here.
Nice.
So I've sold, or at least have a pending sale on the pastel I produced. And it's a girl. So it's just a pastel, and I'm thinking it's very probable that it's going to be het for pied based on that. And it's also technically possible het for lavender albino, but I don't think that came through.
Okay, let's talk about genetic testing while you mentioned the
Yeah,
possibilities.
I mean, I definitely think with the right animals, yes. So for all of these, with the possibility of lavender albino, nah, no point, right? It was a 50% chance that the male had it, the sire, right? So what's the point of, these are what, $75 to $100 snakes, give or take. This champagne pastel is also going the same person. So I don't see the point. And in this scenario, I proved out that a mom was het pied. So in my opinion, with champagne being there, you're gonna know if you hit, your het pied, right? Because you're gonna hit a snake like this.
That's
so that
amazing.
proved that mom was het for pied.
That's not a holdback.
It's a boy.
Uh,
And this beautiful snake here is going up to Jessica Ozak. She won it as part of Jeremy's giveaway for his
Very nice.
1,000 subs. So, I mean, it's really cool, and I could produce it again. And it did its job, right? It proved out mom. So now mom will go to a visual pied, and we should see half of that clutch be pieds. But, yeah.
Very nice.
Yep. I mean, for something here, I'll take out one I think that I should test. This one is a super vanilla trick, possible het clown. I think it being het clown improves the value significantly, but it's not going to change what I do with it. I'm still going to pair it to a clown. So
here goes another potential issue with testing. Like, I bred het-to-het ultra males last year and didn't get any. I'm gonna try it again this year. What if I don't get any ultra males? I test the parents, and one or both end up not being het, and they're both from relatively well-known breeders. What do I do? Do I call them out? Do I talk to them?
So in that instance, if so you tested the parents, they were sold to you as 100%.
Yeah,
I'd have an issue. Because the only way they were going to be a 100% is if it was visual to visual or double visual to something. So if that didn't happen, I'd be upset. Now, if it's a POS hat, 66, so that means you didn't, you had the visuals but you didn't hit it, type of thing. Yeah, if that's not there, there was a chance that it wasn't from the get go. So I would be upset about that. But if something was sold to you as 100% visual, and you tested it and it was not, after you didn't produce a bunch of stuff, I'd be upset. I'd contact that breeder. Like, hey, what happened? Now, I don't think a reputable breeder would do that. There's a certain point, like if it's 50%, I'm not even going to tell you that it's 50%, right? If there wasn't a visual in the pairing at all, no. But with this, I can tell for a fact that some of these champagnes aren't het for pied, because I know how that gene works with pied. But I know that the mom is. So, and there's no point in lab and testing.
That can be an issue too if you're breeding 50%, and let's say it's albino or caramel albino, and then someone buys a pair off you, breed them, and they end up with albinos or caramel albinos. I'd be kind of upset at that if I'm shooting for like desert ghost clowns and end up with albino. But there's so much going on with the genetic testing.
Yeah. I mean, with the ones that have markers, I will I'm not confident that pastel is het for pied, but it has markers. It has a ringer. Mom now obviously carries half of that. So based on the odds, she didn't throw much to anything, right? She and here's the guy that's buying the two of them. So she threw the het pied to the one male I got with the champagne, but she really wasn't present anywhere else in that clutch. So looking at how I kind of figured she might have been het for pied, she has pretty obvious tracks that could indicate that it's het for pied. So looking at that on that pastel offspring, I'm sort of like, it's got a ringer, it's got tracks. So I would say probable. Um, it's 50%, but I know that it showed up in the clutch. It gets weird, but I'd be
Okay,
kind of bummed if I hit it. Like if I bought two things that were 50% like hidden, like I didn't tell you about it, right? So I buy, it's got they're have albino, but I not bothering, and then you go produce an albino and you didn't want that in that pairing. I can see where it's sort of like,
I mean, if it was like sunset, hey, I'd be happy, but no, albino.
right, like I didn't want to hit an albino, or um, I didn't need a pie in this. But then sometimes, if you're working that into like a double head project and you hit a triple visual, well, are you going to complain at the end of the day? No. There was somebody in Ozzy's Patreon that he paired a double two. He's working on a hat project, and apparently there was a third one in there, and he hit the triple visual, and it was like ultramel and something else. I would burn down the whole village with an albino and a DG flesh. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, be transparent in your pairings, but don't sell it as that. I guess it's the best option in this regard, right? So here was the pairings, here's the full genetics. Where it could be possibly het for this. I'm not selling it as that. You're getting it as this straight animal.
Mind if I share a snake right now?
Yeah, your camera fell off, by the way. Your phone died.
Oh, is it dead?
I don't know. It disconnected.
Oh, I'll just share it in the front here.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
But this one is from Adam at Proper Royals, and it's a banana, no spots. Now we've been talking back and forth a lot about it, and we think it might be a banana hypo or banana ghost. And I don't know if anybody has experience with banana ghost. What do you think? No spot. She's about, I don't know, 500 grams or so. And it's just super clean.
Yeah, I don't work. I don't have the two together.
So
as far as in my experience, all I know is that like Enchi can remove the spots.
right. So this is kind of like, I'm on the search now for a hypo clown male or some variant of that, just because of this girl. Try to prove her out. But I do have a lot of hypo as well. I just won Pastel GHI hypo from No Limit Royals on Brian Samson Snakatorium's live, and that
Nice.
girl's incredible. So I kind of want to just add some sort of hypo clown. I'm not working on that project yet, but with that banana and the GHI, probably something I want to look into.
Yeah, that is my next year's project. The girl is not big enough yet. She's only about 800. So I have a clown, possible blade, 66% at Orange Ghost. That's a lot of hypo I have there. And then I'm pairing him to an Orange Dream, possible double het, clown hypo, or Orange Ghost. So hopefully, I can hit that visual. So the sire and dam, they produce visuals of both, just not the, double visual. So I'm hoping, that I get a clown hypo in the future. I don't like confusing everybody with all the different lines and whatnot. Hypos or ghost is, the preferred nomenclature. I'm going to go with that.
Do you like Axanthic?
I don't have any, and at this point, it's like it would be too much to add an example line. I I have Ultramel, Pie, Clown, Hypo, and possible Lavender, possible Albino. Getting Buddy's getting DG in the future, and I should be getting at least a male het enhancer. That's everything. It's at the point now where I'm losing track of how many things I have going on.
Let me share with you a VPI Xanthic I hatched out this year. Now, first, let me show you one without the VPI. So this
Okay.
is a Firefly Het VPI, and it's also 50% possible Het puzzle. So Firefly, we're all familiar with pastel and fire. Pattern's a little wacky, so I'm hoping that 50% Het puzzle proves. But she's definitely Het VPI. Now let me show you the exact combo, but with VPI. These were my first recessives ever to hatch out. My first run through, I was just mainly working with codoms. And honestly, Axanthic was not on my radar too much, but hatching these out, it's like, I want to do Axanthic everything now. So this is the Axanthic version of Firefly.
Wow.
50% Het puzzle. And with how crazy that pattern, I'm hoping that proves out. This is a male. Get his head. There we go.
So the Xanthic is it's just black and white more or less.
Yeah, and
It's the absence of
yellow
yellow.
pigment.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know. I don't know if we call things that tyrosine positive or negative in ball pythons. And I know we have some misnomers as far as gene names when it comes to pigments.
But yeah, so I'm hoping it's Het puzzle. Puzzle, if you were to ask me what's my favorite recessive,
It's puzzle.
you know what? It's so hard to call because clown, DG, I love G Stripe, but I've really fallen in love with puzzle, and I don't actually have a visual yet, but I do have a couple of Het females and a bunch of possible Het females. And actually, I do have a male, a couple of male hets too. So hopefully this coming season, I'll be able to produce that VPIs.
So in the Highlander, there can be only one favorite Xanthic, or not Xanthic, recessive. We're talking Xanthic, and I said it, that weird thing that happens. You're like when you're talking, reading something, and you say what you're reading. Yeah. Anyway, favorite recessive. No others exist. No second place.
I got to go DG on that. I'll go DG. Puzzle's a close second.
All right. So, Mark, what are your most exciting pairings that you have going on this year? What's your most anticipated clutch that you're projecting to have this year?
So, DG Clown, hopefully, but the girl she's a 2021. And how do you feel about breeding the young females? Do you breed young females?
So I haven't yet. Now, mind you, this was my first year, this past year, and I didn't know that my girl was a girl. So she was on the small side. She was 1,200 grams when I started pairing her. Ballooned up to 1,800. Then you went off food and put everything into the eggs. So for me on pairing, if they're smaller, are they doing the things they need to be doing, right? So let's say they're 1,200 grams. Are they bowl wrap? Are they indicating physically that they might be built? They're not on the hot side, right? They want to stay cool. Are they building the follicles? Now, if you have an ultrasound, you can obviously check that. But for those of us that don't, we can't really see that. So you can palpate and see that. Now, the other thing is she old enough, right? So she could be, a year old or a year and a half old and, 2,000 grams. That's great. You can try pairing her, but she might not be actually mature enough at that point. So I think you have to check a bunch of boxes, right? So if she's old enough, right? Old enough is key, right? She has to be sexually mature. She's exhibiting behavior because in the wild they're going to breed, right? They're going to prolong their genetic code, right? That's what most of us are predetermined to do, right? Get our genes out there, extend our lines. And then if she is up to weight, that's fine. So, you have to, you check all the boxes. Great. I have no problem doing it. Now, you might get a forehead clutch if you go that smaller route. So it's really a personal preference. But there are certain boxes that have to be checked.
I agree.
And I think age, behavior, size, and behavior are two that I would want checked.
Yeah, last year I had.
If I got that right in my head. Sorry, that was a little rant.
Last year I had 3 2020 girls go for me, and 3 very successful clutches. And this year I have a pastel blade double het DG clown. She's right around 1,300 grams. She's a 2021, and I'm going to see if she goes this year. But again, I'm having that dilemma. Do I just let her continue eating, then get her to 2,000 grams for next season, or have a chance at a DG clown this year? So this is where like an ultrasound would definitely come in well, but I don't have that at this time. But like you said, I'll look for those signs. She is one of the signs, of course, is she eating like crazy, and yeah, she's eating like crazy. So fingers crossed, we'll see. I'll give it a try, probably in January.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. Sorry, I got distracted. Dallas just lost.
Sorry.
In overtime. Yeah, man. To a 3-6 Green Bay team. But yeah, if you feel comfortable doing it, then do that pairing. It's one of those where you want the that anticipation of what can come out. But there, you may have to wait.
If they go, they'll go. Right? We'll see.
Yeah, they'll go there. They'll go. But if you wait another year, she's bigger, potential to have more eggs, which means more chances at everything. So there's that. All right.
So last breeding season, I held back a lot, and this season I'll probably hold back a lot too. And I went into the season with like 40 ball pythons, and now I have over 70 because of all the holdbacks. So I think I'll be like at 100 plus by the end of next season. There's going to be a point where I've got to get rid of some of these snakes because I don't want to be like over 100. I don't want to do like more than 10 clutches a year, and I don't want to get overwhelmed with it. So, but they're also cool.
Right. So actually, what are your thoughts on that holdback process? Are you one of those hold back everything, or
pretty much? I mean,
okay.
I think that the genetic testing, I'm holding back for the genetic tests, and then once I find out that if they're not het ultramale, I'll just release those. And I've got a pretty good deal with a local pet store here where I could just give the ones I really don't want over there. But I had my students bought a lot, but
that's nice.
I kind of got in trouble for that. Like AP talked to me and said, "There's a rumor going around that you're selling snakes to kids." I was like, "Oops." So the kibosh has been put on that.
But you just got to sell them to their parents at the shows. I mean, for me, like my holdback strategy is: can I make it again? If yes, then why do I need it? These things have a pretty long lifespan. So, like I made that het pied champagne that looks like a visual pied. I can make that again if I want to. It's a boy. I don't need it, so it can go. I can make champagnes again. If I can make it again, it can go. If I can't buy it, well, then it's gonna stay. So depending on even if it say I hit like a vanilla blade trick, clown hypo, something like that, I might keep all those things back from that clutch just because. Yes, I can make it, but can I buy it? And if I hold on to that, work that project out, and add more things into it, then I might have something that's like, okay, this is awesome. Now I'm setting the price point here.
Well, the females are my problem because it's like if I hold them back, if I sell them, I lose out a year on growing them up. So I tend to hold back those females, and I've been very female heavy this year. That's why I've got a lot of holdback. If there was more males, I would definitely release more. But yeah,
Right.
I've been very heavy
I mean,
females.
they're females, so if as you're growing them up, they become more and more valuable, right? So now they're a sub-adult. You might add $100 onto that initial price point from a hatchling. So now they're up to breeder weight. You decide to go another way, even more, and maybe even year two after you bred that one. Now it's a proven breeder. So, yeah, I mean, it all depends on what you want to do. So, Mark, we're gonna wrap up here. Normally, I shut off, for Jeremy, but he's not live tonight, so we have a little bit longer. But I still want to, keep it to the same time frame. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years as a ball python breeder?
I'll be here. I know there's a lot of people dropping out. Those pandemic babies like myself have been dropping out, but I'll still be around. My original plan was to have something that I could do when I retire from teaching, and I'm not that far off. I'm about 7 years away from that. And if I continue doing it right now, by the time I retire, I will have like quadruple recessives and stuff like that, and just do that when I retire. So
So
I'll be here.
that's cool, man. That's really cool. And I don't in New Jersey when you retire as a teacher, you get your health insurance, you get a pension, you get all those things. Is this the same in California?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm set up pretty well, and I could do this as side income or just for fun to
and
keep my mind active.
that's an awesome retirement, man. Get done teaching, you're vested in everything, you got health insurance. I'm gonna continue to breed snakes and do what I love. That is awesome. And I said 5 years. That's a 7-year plan for you. Either way, I mean, it looks awesome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on here. It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
Thanks for coming on. If you we mentioned this earlier. Mark is going to the show in Pomona. He is attending, correct?
Yes, I'll be there.
So what's the date on that one?
I think it's like January 6th, 7th, right there, somewhere right there.
All right. So where can people find you on social media? It's down below.
So Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok as well. But my YouTube, my TikTok and my Instagram, or whatever I post on Instagram, I throw it on TikTok as well, and sometimes on YouTube Shorts. So pretty much all the same stuff, but mainly Instagram.
All right. Any final words? You want to shout out the giveaway again, in case there's some people that just tuned in?
So I've got my giveaway. The video is going live in less than an hour. It's a pastel highway female at 1,000 subs. And if you comment "Life is a Highway," you're eligible for 1 slot. But if you add craft brew on to the comment, you will get 2 slots for that giveaway. So only you guys are privy to that. Good luck on that.
All right. I mean, that's awesome. Mark, thank you again for coming on. It's been a blast. Not here, John. Comment on Mark's video that he's going to release.
John's been asking, so John, now you know.
Anyway, remember to like, share, subscribe, comment on this video. If you're rewatching, subscribe to both of us. Mark puts out some great content as well. And check us out. Check me out next week. I believe I have Donovan from Burning Heart Exotics on. I have to confirm that. But we'll see. He's got ball pythons where he takes a bunch of cool stuff. He's really heavy into social media, and he's a high desert python VIP member like myself.
Put that on my video, and you're eligible.
Does that get him 3?
See you, Doc Joe. Here.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, I'm really humbled. All you people come watch me every week, or whenever you catch it on the replay. It's really amazing. But thank you again. We'll see you next week. Check out my video about my breeding plans that drops on Tuesday at 6 p.m. I almost forgot to say. Here we go.